Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for our December the 6th lesson in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students from the original edition. Lesson 340. I can be free of suffering today. I can be free of suffering today. You know, that's an appropriate lesson for me because many years ago when the mother of my children crossed over, it was on December the 6th. And you know, I hadn't started reading this book. Matter of fact, I had just got it that day. We were going to study it together. And I think in some ways we very much are. But she's on the non-physical realm, and I'm on the physical realm. As I've told you before, her name was Diane. She crossed over on December the 6th, and looks what the lesson is. I can be free of suffering today. I can be free of suffering today. It doesn't matter what's happened in your past. You can be free of suffering today. You know, back in those days, it was a little traumatic, tearful for me. But I hung on to that Bible verse I knew. All things work together for good. And you know, there's more to that passage, but that's the part that just made really a lot of sense to me. All things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Well, we're all called according to God's purpose, which is to be happy, follow God. All things work together for good to those who love God, which we're knowing that we do love God. And we are called according to His purpose, which is our purpose. That's what we're learning. All right, so December the 6th, I can be free of suffering today. Father, I thank you for today and for the freedom I am certain it will bring. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be forever free from all suffering. Free forever from all suffering. Let's read that again. His suffering is done. I'm going to start the prayer again. Father, I thank you for today and for the freedom I am certain it will bring. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice, directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be free forever from all suffering. Thanks for today, my Father. I was born into this world but to achieve this day and what it holds in joy and freedom for your Holy Son and for the world He made, which is released along with Him today. Wow, we've made this world with all of everyone else, and we're all part of this divine plan. So we thank I was born into this world but to achieve this day and what it holds in joy and freedom for your Holy Son and for the world He made, which is released along with Him today. So we want that release, that freedom. I can be free of suffering today. Just depend on the Christ. You know, use forgiveness. Use what we've learned. Make it a habit in your problem-solving repertoire. Be glad today. Be glad. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. Our Father has redeemed His Son this day. Not one of us but will be saved today. Not one who will remain in fear, and none the Father will not gather to Himself. Awake in heaven in the heart of love. I can be free of suffering today. Once again on that last part. Be glad today. Be glad. Be glad today. Be glad. I think that means, you know, be glad. Jump up and down. Say thank you. Do that today sometime. Say, I'm going to be glad today. You be silly if you want to. But, you know, do it silliness in a playful way with God. Be glad today. Be glad. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. Our Father has redeemed His Son this day. Not one of us but will be saved today. We'll all be saved. Not one of us but will be saved today. Not one who will remain in fear, and none the Father will not gather to Himself. Awaken in heaven and in the heart of love. Wow. So we're all gonna make it. We're all there. Let's just awaken to our reality. I can be free of suffering today. Sometimes we think we have to go through a few more pains to get to heaven. I've heard it said before, and I always think to myself, well, now that's not right. You got to have a little pain in order to get some gain, or you got to have a little, I've heard it said so many different ways that you have to go through the problem to get to the reward, that you have to go through hell to get to heaven. And yeah, if you're in hell, well then you got to leave hell to get to heaven, but you don't have to go through it any more than you want to. And I think we're learning we don't want it. All right? Okay, so let's go take a look in our text reading, and we're ready for the second part of chapter, we're in chapter 10, and we are, did I mark it? Here we go, on the wrong page. We are ready for chapter 10, God and the Ego, the willingness for healing, section 3, and we're ready for paragraph 20, but I think we'll begin with 19. As you're turning there, if you'd like to follow along, I want to read to you something out of the Baker's Creek catalog here. A type of lettuce that I'm thinking I want to get, kind of to show my solidarity with the Amish type mentality. In many ways, I really like the Amish mentality. Not that I'm Amish, but you know, it's a spirit of independence and of working in harmony with nature, a brotherhood of family, taking care of family in the name of Christ. And I like that. I think we could all learn something from the Amish. So this is an Amish deer tongue lettuce. It kind of looks like deer tongue, I guess. Medium green, triangular leaves are perfect for baby salad greens. It forms loose, upright heads and is slow to bolt. A popular variety with many heirloom growers, the old favorite of the Amish. Says it's a 50-day lettuce. So, I'm thinking I want to get me some seeds put in and have them growing nice and then set them out. Maybe even still thinking about maybe some kind of a little cold frame. It's been so warm, if I'd planted radishes, they would have sprouted. Planted anything outside, they probably would have sprouted. Cool weather plants. It's been so warm. I'm actually hot today with my vest on. And here what is December the 6th. All right. Paragraph 19. Healing is a sign that what he wants to make whole. Healing is a sign that he wants to make whole. And this willingness opens his own ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. Talking about us as we progress to God's Son. You know, we're wanting to. Healing is a sign that God's Son wants to make whole. And this willingness opens his own ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. He will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake, for beside your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. So you just offer your little willingness, and the complete will of God will come to match it. So you don't have to do much work. You just got to do the right motivation. You're the desire, the will. You won't ever do anything against your will. So you will it, and it's done for you. Okay? It doesn't have to be difficult, because remember, you're integrating. You're actually becoming part of who you are, and working perfectly in harmony with nature and with everyone and everything. Okay? So he will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake, for beside your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. What can the Son of God not accomplish with the fatherhood of God in him? And yet the invitation must come from you, for you have surely learned that whom you invite as your guest will abide with you. If you're going to value the ego, it's going to stay the ego, and you're going to be listening to it, and it's going to be your home. But when you stop listening to the ego and you listen to God, well, then it's much easier to do what you're naturally inclined to do and what you're really doing, to be joyful and peaceful. We just had to look at some of our thoughts that were keeping us prisoner and let go of those thoughts because they weren't really in harmony with truth, making us insane. But now we can wake to our own sanity and joy in the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus came to teach us and what we're trying to all learn to do now. Paragraph 20. The Holy Spirit cannot speak to an unwelcoming host because he will not be heard. The eternal guest remains, but his voice grows faint in alien company. He needs your protection. He needs your peace of mind so you can hear him. But only because your care is a sign that you want him. You can't go against your want, okay? Think like him ever so slightly, and the little spark becomes a blazing light that fills your mind so that he becomes your only guest. Isn't that nice? The way of looking at it? Let's read it again. Think like him ever so slightly, and the little spark becomes a blazing light that fills your mind so that he becomes your only guest. Whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome. He will remain, but you have allied yourself against him. Whatever journey you choose to take, he will go with you, waiting. You can safely trust his patience, for he cannot leave a part of God. Yet you need far more than patience. And he can tell us what we need. You will never rest. You'll never have complete patience. You'll never rest until you know your function and fulfill it. For only in this can your will and your Father's be wholly joined. So you might even think of impatience as the proof that you're not reached yet, or you haven't accepted in that moment, be the better way to say it, that your function, okay? You will never rest. You'll never be completely patient until you know your function and fulfill it. For only in this can your will and your Father's be wholly joined. You can't be coercive. It has to be free will, okay? To have him is to be like him, and he has given himself to you. You who have God must be as God, for his function became yours with his gift. Invite this knowledge back into your minds and let nothing that will obscure it enter. The guest whom God sent you will teach you how to do this if you but recognize the little spark and are willing to let it grow. Let it be extended through you. Your willingness need not be perfect because his is. Okay? Your willingness need not be perfect because his is. If you will merely offer him a little place, he will lighten it so much that you will gladly extend it. If you will merely offer him a little place, he will lighten it so much that you will gladly extend it. And by this extending, you will begin to remember creation. Healing will take place, extension will take place, and creation will continue unabated. Paragraph 22. Would you be hostage to the ego or host to God? You will accept only whom you invite. You are free to determine who shall be your guest and how long he shall remain with you. You have free will to who you're going to choose to be your guest. But this is not real freedom, for it still depends on how you see it. The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you without your invitation. And the ego is nothing whether you invite it in or not. So it's really a choice between nothing and God, okay? Real freedom depends on welcoming reality, and of your guests, only he is real. Know then who abides with you merely by recognizing what is there already, and do not be satisfied with imaginary comforters, for the comforter of God is in you. Isn't that just beautiful? The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you without your invitation, because you have to say, okay, I need to love this person. I need to be thankful. I need your help, Holy Spirit. And that's all you got to do. Kind of in a daze you can even do it, almost like I don't want to do it in one respect, but another way I know it's the right thing to do. It's kind of like that. All of a sudden, you've given it that little spark, that little willingness, and you'll see the spark that'll grow into a blazing light. All right, let's stop there. We'll be ready from darkness to light in our next section. So if you're following along, that should be really fun. Oh, and let's now take a look at what is the ego. Let's see if I can check. I guess we're doing okay on time here. Back behind me, I got some white oaks in the background, all some pretty good sized ones. Nice and healthy. Probably won't be cutting them down anytime soon. I like to get the trees to where they're managed in a way that all of nature kind of blends together. There is a time to harvest a tree if you want the wood, but there's a time where you wait, and maybe it's your grandchildren that'll be the ones that'll harvest it, because you don't want to take it while it's still doing a living function, which now we're seeing the trees are the so important for the planet. So we want to leave as many trees as we can. Anyway, some white oak, Quercus albus behind me. They make their acorns, and they're a little better tasting acorn than your black and red oaks. So know where they at by this time of year. There's still a lot of acorns on the ground, but the squirrels get them, the deer get them, and I expect the deer get them. I know my horses go after them. What is the ego? The ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. The ego is insane. It's in fear it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees the will of God has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. The Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness? And that was madness, to attack first to ensure your safety. But the Son of God is egoless. What can the Son of God know of madness and the death of God when he abides in God? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? Remember, we can have our joy. What is our lesson for today? Isn't that what it says? I can be free of suffering today. Why? Because we can always live in the eternal now, where there's always joy, there's always the kingdom of heaven, always ability to rest in God and have the kingdom of heaven now. That's why. The Son of God is egoless. We can know of madness. Oh, what can he know of madness and the death of God when he abides in him? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace? Forever conflict-free, forever conflict-free, forever conflict-free, and undisturbed in deepest silence and tranquility. So there's the kind of life that we have, that we are living. And let's go ahead and be aware that we live there, and go there when you're feeling like you're away from there. Well, then go there, because that's your heritage. That's who you are. That's the eternal now, the kingdom that you access with the password of forgiveness. Be willing to apply it. Just willingness. So remember, just our little willingness is met by his complete willingness. So we just have the willingness to love our neighbor as ourselves and love God with our heart, and he comes and makes it happen. To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions, to the shrine of life itself, and peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as his Son, his dwelling place, his joy, his love, completely his, completely one with him. I can be free of suffering today. And let us be free of suffering today. Father, I thank you for today and for the freedom I am certain it will bring. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be free forever from all suffering. Thanks for today, my Father. I was born into this world but to achieve this day and made its whole, I was born into this world but to achieve this day. That is a very nice thought. I was born into this world to achieve this day where I can be free of suffering today because I've learned to practice forgiveness and have the motivation to do so, and know how to determine my feelings when I'm not doing it so that I can do it. Everything's been given me. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be free forever from all suffering. Thanks for today, my Father. I was born into this world but to achieve this day, and what it holds in joy and freedom for your Holy Son and for the world he made, which is released along with him today. The whole world's freed with you. The whole world, you can say, I can be free of suffering today, and I'm going to see the whole world is free of suffering today. I'm going to see it as God created it. I'm going to see it as holy. You'll see it without a body, too. It's kind of important in this world to be able to do that. Be glad today. Be glad. Be glad today. Be glad. Exclamation points. You probably ought to jump up and down and say, be glad today. I can be free of suffering today. Be glad. Be glad today. Be glad. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. No room for anything but joy and thanks today. Our Father has redeemed His Son this day. Not one of us but we'll be saved today. We're all going to be saved. If one person's saved, everyone's saved. We got to see it that way. And it's not just imagine. It is imagination maybe to begin with, but only for a moment. Because then you see the reality that what you imagined was blocked because you were seeing things upside down. We're learning to see it in the eternal now. Not one of us, but we'll be saved today. We'll all be saved today. Not one of us, but we'll be saved today. Not one who will remain in fear, and none the Father will not gather to Himself. Awaken in heaven and in the heart of love. You can awaken in heaven right here on planet Earth. Don't have to die to get there. Heaven is in our midst. Right? Isn't that what Jesus told us? Now we're learning how to access it. We've got the way to get in. We've got the security clearance. I don't know if that's the right word for using there, but you know, we can go right on into the kingdom of heaven because we know how to practice forgiveness. All right, until tomorrow, I can be free of suffering today.